Hassel lights, talk to me. Yeah. Welcome everybody to another edition of Hassel's Review, where this week I'm going to be reviewing Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. So, for any of you that do not know, Winnie the Pooh has entered into public domain in the last couple of, just this year, honestly. So apparently when 95 years after any work is published, or 70 years after the author's death, copyright or no copyright, it's public domain. So, even though the House of Mouse technically wants to own it, it doesn't own the core characters. So, just entering into the public domain, it became free reign, and the studio decided to pick it up and do a horror movie out of it. And as always, this in honor of my boy Big Rob of Big Rob's House of Entertainment and No Chinese Food, I will give a spoiler-ridden review today. So, initially I kind of slept on this movie a little bit and was a little hesitant to watch it just because I thought it was going to be just some fat guy in a bad rubber mask killing people, calling himself Winnie the Pooh. However, it was some guy in a bad rubber mask, but it was the actual Winnie the motherfucking Pooh and Piglet. Not just a guy in those suits. It's a character. So, this movie kind of kicks off. You get a backstory of young Christopher Robin, who is in the 100-acre woods, and he is going and visiting Winnie the Pooh and all the little characters, all minus Tigger, however, who will not be into public domain until next year in 2024. So, thus, he is not in there. But all the rest are there. You got Piglet, Winnie, Owl, Eeyore, you know, the works. Rabbit, what the fuck ever. So, young Christopher Robin's, it gives a little bad animated, but it's almost like a creepy animation. I will say that. So, you get this like creepy animation of young Christopher Robin's meeting the feral animals in the 100-acre woods and befriending them, and then, you know, every day he went and seen his friends in the forest, and he fed them, and, well, they were just besties for life, so to speak, until that little rotten rascal decided to go to college. So, one day he up and decides, you know what, I want to be a learned man. I want to go to college. And his little selfish ass says, goodbye, my friends. And he goes off to college. So, apparently, when he goes off to college, these critters who existed long before he befriended them initially and fed them every day, they fed them, but they could no longer feed themselves. The forest had become barren of food, substance, just void, so to speak. So they start to starve as the winter enters, and then they decide at some point to say, fuck it, and they ate Eeyore. So he was having a really bad day that fucking day, I promise you. So they eat Eeyore, and then that kind of gives them a mental break, and then they pretty much shit all over their humanity, vowing never to speak again, and thus entering the killing spree. So you fast forward to young Christopher Robin has graduated college, and he is married. And the movie opens up, and he decides, I'm going to take my wife, Mary, into the 100-acre wood and let her be introduced to his friends. So apparently he has told her about Winnie and all Piglet and Eeyore and everyone else for years, and she's kind of humored him. You know, it'd be hard to imagine, you know, someone really buying that load of shit, but she must really love the boy because, you know, she humored him, and he's taking her further and further into the woods and telling her how true it is, and then finally she tells him, she says, look, it's normal for people to have an imaginary friend growing up. You just happen to have a group. Maybe you had some trauma that you were dealing with, so forth and so on. So he's like, no, we're almost there. And, you know, you got a little playful back and forth there. And she's like, yeah, you said that a while ago. They have a warm embrace. Well, then he happens upon the base layer of Winnie and Piglet. And he gets there and he says, this is different than I remember it. And it's bigger now, and, you know, there's like 3 trailers out there also, like little Winnebago trailers, which was kind of odd to me, but, you know, you had those. Then you had like a little wooden cabin, so forth and so on. Well, he goes up in there, and he starts, you know, talking about Pooh, this, that, and the other, and he sees where the pot of honey typically is, and the pot of honey has blood smudges on the side. And this is where young Christopher gets the old, something's not right here. Well, when he comes out of there is Piglet choking the shit out of his wife. And he starts begging, pleading, hey, I'm Christopher Robin, I'll come back. And, and she basically chokes his fucking wife to death. Done. First death of the movie, right off the rip. 5 minutes in. Dead in the door now. So, Christopher, he starts crying and whining and pleading. And Winnie shows up, and he sees Winnie, and he's like, something's wrong. He tries to talk, and he realizes real quick, they ain't want to hear this shit. They're not having it. Not today, son. Yeah! So, he goes to run, and they give chase, and they initially catch him, and he begs and pleads, and then they stomp his lights out. So, pan over to the second group, the group of females. So, there's a group of young college females, and they decide that they're going to go into a trip into the woods and have a getaway, so to speak. They need a girls' trip. And I'm not even going to bother with all these girls' names because, let's be honest, they're filler. They're just the side story. That winds up being the meat and potatoes of the movie. But either way, some very talented young actresses, very attractive young actresses. Either way, they're not Christopher Robin. Sorry. So they decide to go off into the woods, and apparently the main chick out of the bunch, she has had some trauma. She has been, traumatized by a stalker in the past. So that's what she's trying to escape and get away from, and she don't want to talk about it. She's got her friends, and of course it's your typical girl group of friends. You've got the one friend that's the narcissist, is all worried about herself, taking little selfies, and she's pretty fucking hot, and has a really good scene in the hot tub with pretty good knockers. But either way, so you have this group of girls, and they all go off into the cabin, and just so happens to be that cabin or house, whatever you want to call it, is right there at the edge of the 100-acre woods. So you see where this is fixing to go. So one by one, they start biting the dust. Like the very first girl, I believe Winnie actually throws into a wood chipper. So there are some actually pretty gruesome kills in this. I will say, while Piglet's mask is better than Winnie the Pooh's, it doesn't come off as much of just big rubber mask. Well, and there's points where his mouth moves and stuff, and it don't come off as bad. But just something about it. It was a little. Piglet's, however, looks pretty cool. She has tusk and all this stuff, and I don't know. Maybe Piglet's a he. I don't know. It was pink. So them, whatever the hell you want to call it, it was pink in the original shits. So I'm going with a she. But it has tusk. Looks pretty cool. Pretty menacing. But one by one, they start to kill these young ladies off, and like I said, they have some good kills. Not quite Terrifier level, I will say, but there are a couple that's kind of on point and gruesome. Young lady that I was talking about, referenced into the hot tub. She's out there, being herself, just taking selfies, and she happens to see the shadow of Pooh in the background. And she's like, "What the fuck?" So she gets out, and this dumb bitch, she gets out. She has the lights on, don't see nobody. So she's like, "Oh fuck it, you're not gonna ruin my time." She gets her ass back into the hot tub. Well, the light's flickering on and off, so it's a pretty cool sequence where every time the light flashes on and she's still in the hot tub doing her thing, you see them getting closer, and it pans out, pans back, and every time they're a little closer, a little closer, a little closer. So they get her and snatch her ass out the hot tub. They have a nice little scene there, and they chain her up and bound her like hogtied, so to speak. Throw her down the ground, and this is where it gets a little weird because Winnie knows how to drive a car. So old Winnie there, he gets behind the seat, and he proceeds to slowly drive forward, and then the other young ladies come out of the house, and they're like, "What the fuck?" And they're watching this, and then he just slowly drives over her head, and not a bad mushing, so to speak. It's just got the old eyeball effect. And I will say it's a little Friday the 13th Part 3-ish, but it was an enjoyable kill. So this is where they start giving chase to those young ladies, and they go up in the house, and Piglet takes one who has gotten to the indoor pool area, And Piglet totes a sledgehammer the whole time. So she hits this girl so hard in the head with the sledgehammer that there's a hole in her head. Sinks into the water. So that was pretty cool kill as well. Then they escape the house, and it's down to like 2 girls at this point. They go, they give chase. They want to go find, oh, that's what it is. The one girl passes out, and Piglet throws her over his shoulder, or her shoulder. And her and Winnie go off with this one young lady. The other 2 ladies ahead, they give chase to go save their friend. It's always a bad idea, people. You sacrifice that friend. Like, I love Mittens, Monster, and Big Rob. However, the supernatural creature throws either of them over their shoulder, you boys let them go. They're done. Sorry, guys. I will mourn you greatly. However, these geniuses give chase. They go after them. So they come upon the lair, so to speak, of Winnie and them. So Winnie is in his little hut there, whatever, and he's got honey mixed with blood pouring off its snout and face and everything, because apparently he has developed this love of blood and honey. Who would have thought? It's in the title. Well, young Christopher Robbins, he's chained up and bound. He's still alive. He's sitting off to the side there, and he's like trying to reach out to old Winnie, and he's apologizing. He'd have never left had he known that, that was going to happen, and that, they would regress like that. He did not know, and apparently at some point I missed it. Eeyore's corpse, even though it was supposedly a burial and a headstone and all this shit, his corpse is laying about still, and it was spotted. I somehow missed it. I might have been a little drinking. I don't know. However, so he's apologizing to him, and it never fully explains what happens to Rabbit and Owl. I'm assuming they got aid to at some point, and Piglet and Pooh was just the survivors. But, so he's apologizing, and it looks like, he's getting through to Winnie for a second, and like even there's a little tear rolls down his little fat cheek. And it's like, oh, it's a heart-touching moment. Then Winnie's like, fuck this shit, and he grabs Eeyore's tail and beats the tar out of fucking young Christopher Robbins, splitting his back all wide open. Well, about that time, the girls come across this other girl who was bound and chained up, and apparently at some point they had killed her husband and mutilated her face, and she was bound up. I don't know why they were saving her. Maybe because, they didn't have a fridge. I don't know. So maybe they were keeping her fresh until they were ready for her. So they turn her loose, and they have a gun at this point, and they all go to escape, and this dumb bitch, these are always the best. Always the best. You go to rescue this motherfucker, and then they go to screaming and hollering and drawing the attention of the creature there. I've always thought, like, you dumb bitch. But that's what happened. So she starts screaming and hollering and alerts Piglet, who comes out there, and then she finally snatches the gun away from the other girl and decides she's going to have a standoff with old Piglet there. And they have a bit of an old tussle. The gun doesn't do shit. And Piglet chews her face all to pieces and pretty much eats her up. Just mauls shit out of her. It's like, whoa, wow, pretty good. So then the other girl goes to tussle at Piglet a little bit, and she gets the sledgehammer. And she finally knocks her upside the damn head and knocks her out, and they bound her ass up. And then finally they kill Piglet with the sledgehammer. Beat her to death. Piglet is done. Dead. There's a squeal let out, and this is not set well with old Winnie. So old Winnie at this point, he's pretty pissed off. And he gives chase. Well, they happen upon Christopher Robin. They set him free. And he tells them just to go. Just get out of here. Go. I'll be okay. And they go. The 2 girls haul ass. Winnie gives chase. And they happen upon this group of guys. They come off as Australian guys. I don't know, but I'm assuming they should have been British, because isn't that where this is supposedly set? I don't know. But they come off as Australian. Like a little gang, so to speak. But they happen upon these young ladies, and they're going to be heroes. And they're like, what's giving you girls such a fit? Why are you being this way, why are you running and hiding? What's after you? And she's trying to say, let's just get the fuck out of here. Well, then they look down the path there, and there's old Winnie standing there. And they're like, oh, so you're the thing that's doing this. Saying that thing's just some dude. Well, these group of guys, they go getting close to him, and then they surround him, and they just like, what a freak, this, that, and the other. And very quickly, they realize their best ain't good enough. Because they go to talk the business to him or whatever. And he stands his ground better than Michael Myers in Halloween Kills. I'm going to be honest. Like when the town folk, it was even laid with the iron, when the fucking Michael up, he actually got fucked up a little bit. Winnie don't get fucked up any. The next thing you know, he murders the piss out of all these motherfuckers. So as a good smashing of the head scene with one of them, I will say that a good stomp to the head was Terrifier level. That one was pretty gruesome and good. And of course, then he goes after the girls. And he kills the one girl. I forget how he killed her, to be honest with you. And it's down to the one girl. And she's running and trying to get the fuck away. And here comes Christopher Robin with a truck, and he runs Winnie over. You think Winnie's done for. So he's kind of bummed up. She's bummed up, but they're trying to get away together. And I don't know, for some reason, I spent the majority of this movie thinking that was like his sister. It was not. Your boy was wrong. I said, by that point, I might have been drunk. I'm not sure. However, it wasn't a sister. They had no relations. They had no knowing of one another. Nah, it happens. He just happened upon them. So they go to get away. Well, the next thing you know, Winnie is free. Now, he grabs the girl, pulls her back, and then Christopher, he gets on his knees and he's begging. He's like, please, please don't do this. You're better than this. I swear I'd have never left if I'd have known this would have happened to you guys. I'm so sorry. And he's pleading again. This time he just don't have Eeyore's tail to get the shit whooped out of him with. And Pooh looks at him and he's like, and you think he's getting through to Pooh a little bit. He's like, let her go and I'll stay with you. I'll stay with you forever. Just like I told you I would when we were kids. I'll stay with you forever. Just please let her go. Please let her go. And at this point, Winnie breaks his vow of silence. And he has a kind of, I don't know, there's kind of this voice is spooky. And he just kind of utters, no. Slits his bitch's throat. Done. Throws her ass down. She's dead in hell. Then young Christopher escapes. Pan to black. Then movie's over. So it's very left open for a sequel. I've heard there's already talks for a sequel. And I'm sure by then Tigger will be free in public domain so they can, use his ass too. And that might be who helps Pooh do the killing in the next one. I don't know. I do a terrible Tigger. It is what it is. But if you want to watch it, it's on Peacock. It's free on there. It's not one of them that you got to pay for. It's a decent watch. I give it about a 3.5 out of 5 Hassels. Maybe 3 3/4. Not terrible. Not great. Not terrible either. It's enjoyable. It's one of those things. If you got nothing else going on, give it a watch. It's fun. So with that, I'd like to give a shout out to a few people. First of all, Big Rob, Big Rob's House of Entertainment, and no Chinese food. Let me get some Chinese food, Rob. What the fuck's up with that? You've never explained that. Anyways, give him a shout out on YouTube. He is on the Twitter at Big Rob's House of Entertainment. He is also on our show from time to time with my boy Monster at the Nerdy Man Room Show. Catch us on YouTube, on Roku TV, on Fire TV via Spotlight Media, and on the Geek Network. We are everywhere. So tune in to us. Shout out to our sponsor, The Zone Collectibles, 305 Main Street, Tifton, Georgia. Hit the Clady Clan up for all your nerdy needs where they do unity through community. Phantom Unite. So, with that being said, if you find your ass in the 100 Acre Woods, get the fuck out of there.